and trans rights or LGBTQ plus AI, whatever the it is, rights. It's nonsense.
Joe Rogan is one of the most controversial and unfiltered voices in comedy and podcasting today. He isn't afraid to take on the woke crowd, challenge popular narratives, and speak his mind on the topics that others avoid. Rogan tears through political correctness and pushes back against the woke culture that dominates society. Take a look at this first video and see him in action.
What they've done to those other girls that are competing against her is just a crime. It's horrible. Imagine if you're a biological woman, you are working your ass off. You are fully dedicated to being the best of the best. You're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's. You are watching your diet. You're watching your recovery. You are fucking trying. And this person who just decides they're a woman with testosterone flowing through their body for their entire life just dominates you. Yeah. It's fucking maddening. And it's fucking maddening that we have gotten into this ideological battle, this cultural end of the road ideological battle where we're allowing that and where people will step up and virtue signal and defend this. That it like is as if it has anything to do with being compassionate and considerate and trans rights or LGBTQ plus AI, whatever the fuck it is, rights. It's nonsense. We are a society that needs a real problem, and we are fixating on these fucking very strange issues and deciding that we're going to correct all the inequities and inequality in the world by allowing these people to express their truth. And you're encouraging mental illness. You're encouraging virtue signaling. You're encouraging mass ideology, this ideological capture of an entire culture where people know things aren't true. You know it's not right. You know it's not accurate. You know it's not scientifically true. And yet people have to espouse these certain things because if they don't, they'll be labeled transphobic. I mean, it's so fucking wild.
This isn't about compassion or rights. It's about ideology overriding reality. We're catering to a tiny fraction of people at the expense of fairness, logic, and the well-being of others. It's not brave or progressive. It's delusional. By encouraging this, we're not solving any real problems. We're creating new ones while pretending to care about equality. Society needs to wake up and stop sacrificing common sense for fear of being labeled. Rogan nails it. People know this isn't right, but stay silent out of fear. If we can't stand up for what's true, biologically, scientifically, and ethically, then what are we even doing? At some point, the truth has to matter more than feelings.
I think that kind of thinking, I think cult thinking, whether it's Scientology or whether it's Christianity, or there's like a type of thinking or that's woke. Woke is clearly a cult. It's a mind virus. And I think that it's so trite to call it that now. It's like whatever this thing is, this leftism, this Marxist sort of ideology that's waving its flag and indoctrinating people in this country. It's very similar to all kinds of religions. It's very similar to fundamentalist religions that have always existed, in that everybody has to believe very specific things and you can't differ. You can't differ from the doctrine. And
this woke ideology isn't about progress or equality. It's a power play, a Marxist agenda masquerading as compassion. It demands conformity, silences dissent, and punishes independent thought. It's a mind virus, as Rogan aptly puts it, spreading unchecked and infecting institutions, schools, and corporations.
You know, there's the fucking border's been invaded by hundreds of thousands of illegals. How many of them are militants? How many of them have snuck in across the border and are forming terror cells? We don't know. I mean, that's the giant fear.
That's for sure happening.
For sure.
There's no doubt.
For sure.
I read this thing that there's like 6 to 10 million people that came across the southern border in the last 4 to 5 years. That's as many people that live in New York City. And then like a crazy increase in people coming across the northern border.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Like, and I see it. I've been in California a lot the last few months. It's insane how many more people are just obviously all of a sudden just appearing like getting dropped off on like street corners with buses, literally just in the middle of nowhere. They literally just get off the bus with a cell phone.
But look at New York City. When Cuomo was explaining how New York City literally has a mandate to house its homeless.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be the people that lived there that were down on their luck. And now it's people that have come in from other cities or other countries rather, illegally. And they're trying to make it so that those people can vote. And you see what they're doing with people from Venezuela?
Crazy.
They're sending people back from Venezuela.
Only from Venezuela.
Yeah, because Venezuela opposes socialism, so they're not going to vote Democratic.
Yeah,
they don't want those people.
That's crazy.
This is fucking wild.
It's crazy how it's so like when you start thinking about it like that. That sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's like totally political. All these moves.
100%.
Yeah,
they're literally importing Democratic voters.
Yeah,
they think by allowing the borders to be porous and by giving people aid and giving people housing that you're essentially guaranteeing that if you can rig it so that those people are allowed to vote, those people are going to vote Democratic. And if you could say that, oh, voter ID is racist, like what? Voter ID is racist.
That's crazy they think that.
They
don't think that. They don't think that. They know that that's not true.
It's horseshit.
Yeah.
It's all political horseshit. But that's unfortunately the level of discourse that we have today, especially with all the virtue signaling on social media and all the people clamoring to prove that they're the most progressive and the most open-minded and equitable, and we're all down for inclusivity and like.
Let's be honest. This isn't sustainable. Cities are overwhelmed, resources are stretched thin, and American citizens, especially those struggling, are being pushed aside. The hypocrisy is glaring. They're quick to label voter ID as racist while demanding IDs for everything else. It's not about fairness, it's about control. Rogan is right to call it out as political horseshit. This isn't progress, it's a slow erosion of sovereignty and common sense. If we don't address this openly and honestly, the very foundations of our country are at risk. We need leaders who prioritize American citizens over their own political agendas.
I mean, that's one of the things that the SPLC accuses me of, though, is that I promoted the white genocide theory, which that is not true, but what are you going to do about these things?
Well, there's plenty of people that have said crazy things about white people lately that you're allowed to say that just drives me nuts.
I just said that if the logic of CRT was played out to its conclusion, that it would end in a genocide of whites, which is a completely different thing. That word "if" means a lot.
If it was taken to its fullest extent. I think there's also a problem with, when you tell people that a group of people are responsible for things, or a group of people, like just completely composed of individuals with completely different lives.
Right.
And everyone's got different experiences. And we say that group of people is either bad or that group of people is responsible for everything. Like, as soon as you do that, you allow othering.
That's right.
Othering is the number one problem we have tribally, culturally, that we can look at other human beings as if they're not us. And this is what's going on in Gaza, in Israel right now.
That's what's going on with this guy. I'm not going to defend whatever, but
Right.
this dude, like, the counter reaction eventually to relentless identity politics is for the other side to start saying, okay, identity politics. Right or wrong, what it does is it creates more of itself. It's like it's contagious.
It makes people more racist.
Yeah, it does.
It does. And when they feel like there's racism allowed against white people, that there's this double standard, then they get racist. There's a lot of people that do that, man. And it fuels it. It's fucking horrible. We should abhor racism with everything. With all we should just treat everyone as individuals.
That's right. Any arbitrary power, especially when it's applied corporately to groups, we should oppose it.
The double standard is clear. Racism against some groups, like white people, is increasingly tolerated, even celebrated in certain circles. This hypocrisy only fuels the fire, pushing people to adopt the same divisive tactics they oppose. Rogan is right. It's tribalism at its worst, and it's tearing society apart. We should reject identity politics outright. Judging people based on race, no matter who they are, is wrong. Period. Treating people as individuals, not as members of a group with collective guilt or virtue, is the only way forward. If we don't, we're just feeding the cycle of hate. Rogan gets it. Too bad, so many others don't.
But what's fascinating is that they're using this, as like you're saying, to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. They're using all of these utopian social ideas and using them in this very weird authoritarian way. And the people that are most promoting it are the people that are in control of all these systems. These are the people that are in control of the military-industrial complex, the people in control of the pharmaceutical companies. They're the ones that they want this struggle to be going on between people. They want this false sense that white supremacy is the number one problem that we face in America right now.
In a country where we elected a black man twice.
Well, it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
And I think it promotes racism because it makes people that are like on the fence racist angry, and they go the other way. They go hard. And there's a bunch of people that feel like they have to be racist because they're being discriminated against and no one cares. And for people that aren't thoughtful and people that don't spend a lot of time and, really consider their position on things, I think they tend to react in a way that is, you're reacting in an impulsive way because you feel threatened, and it's not logical. It doesn't reflect your actual real values of how you really would think about people if everybody would just treated everybody as normal. Everybody is the same thing, and that the idea that even the goal of that itself to aspire to a colorblind society is somehow racist. That doesn't make any sense.
I think it's a pretty good – this is exactly why I'm concerned that these people just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? They tried to create racial strife to distract from their bankruptcy, their moral bankruptcy, right? They were staving off the French Revolution by getting us to turn on each other. Well, that worked a little bit for a while, but it also created a lot of interest in talking about what they were up to, and it created an entire alternative media space in which people who didn't want any part of that nonsense actually gained credibility in the public's eyes. People who might never have been heard of in wider circles if not for this. So they didn't anticipate that they were going to create an alternative to the media that they controlled. That's how little they understand.
The idea that aspiring to a colorblind society is somehow racist is one of the most insane twists in modern discourse. Treating people as individuals, regardless of race, used to be the goal. Now, even that's under attack. Rogan is dead on. This isn't logical, and it doesn't reflect how most people truly feel about others. It's clear that the elites are playing games with society. They're morally bankrupt, trying to distract us with division so we don't notice their corruption. But the rise of alternative media shows people are waking up. We're seeing through the lies, and that scares them. Rogan's take isn't just insightful, it's a warning. If we don't resist this manipulation, we're walking right into their trap.
It's mostly Jewish?
I mean, according to my Jewish friends, it is, But why do they hate white guys?
It's just woke things, man. It's just virtue woke bullshit. It's like
I just don't understand it.
Well, because the hierarchies have experienced a polar shift. Okay, so here's what it is. If you go back to the 1960s, the kind of racism that people faced, like before the race riots and all that, was horrific because it's just 100 years removed from slavery ending. And the echoes of that...
Oh, it's still in our genes.
Yes, but the echoes of that were much more prevalent then. And so black people were heavily discriminated against. Gay people were heavily discriminated against. People recognize that that's wrong. Young people go to universities. They get taught that it's wrong. They recognize the sins of the past, and then they overcorrect. And by overcorrecting, now you favor people that you think have been previously marginalized. So you give people, like Vivek calls it the tyranny of the oppressed. So the oppressed, the previously oppressed, now have a social hierarchy, they're a higher level. If you're a black trans woman, you get to say the things first at the meeting. Let the black trans woman talk. There's a hierarchy in all woke culture.
Right.
And if you are a white male who's heterosexual, you have to be non-binary. Because otherwise you can't get in. You gotta be a they them. Because then now you're marginalized. Like all you have to do is like change your That's the lowest level of entry is non-binary straight man. You just say you're non-binary, and they're like, yeah. You just say I just don't feel like a man or a woman. Meanwhile, you fuck chicks. You know what you're doing, you little chameleon.
Yeah, you're just being a
sneaking
little
around.
secret Care Bear or whatever.
This new tyranny of the oppressed doesn't solve any of the problems it claims to address. Instead, it creates new divisions and fuels resentment. Pretending to solve inequality by flipping the script and marginalizing others isn't justice. It's just revenge dressed up as progress. We need to stop letting these absurd social rules dictate how we treat people. Identity politics has gone too far, and it's time to get back to focusing on individuals, not their labels. Rogan is right to call this out because if we keep heading down this path, we'll lose any hope of genuine equality and fairness.
Do you think that the way it's going right now with late night television, where everyone has to be political, is that what the audience wants, or is that what the executives in the studio wants? Are they are they one step behind? Like where is the mandate coming from? Is it the person who's the host who says, you know what I know works in this town, if I want to keep working, I have to be like outwardly left-leaning, progressive, political?
Look, I think it's coming from both, because corporations in America now
they're leaning in.
Or what?
They're leaning into woke. Hardcore.
They're petrified
Yeah.
of some kind of backlash. I mean, you see with Disney now. I mean, Disney, one of the most gay-friendly companies that we've had in a very long time, as they should be. All companies should be gay-friendly. But Disney they had gay days at Disney, what is it, World, Land? I don't know. I'm not at Disney.
I think it was the LA one, right?
You'll never find
I think
me
it's
in
Land.
Disneyland is the original. That's right.
That's
Disney
LA.
World is in Florida.
Right.
You'll never find me sitting in a teacup, Joe. Okay. So
I love teacups.
I mean, this is in my category of things that only children used to do that now adults do. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said, I'm going to Disneyland, and I'm like, with your kids? No, we're just going. Okay. But, there is that. There is corporations, I think, yes, are always going to want to. And look, I'm glad they are progressive thinking. Of course, like with everything on the left these days, they just take it too far.
Corporations like Disney don't care about values. They care about control. They use woke culture as a shield to keep the outrage mob off their backs while making billions. It's all a game to them, and we're the ones stuck watching this nonsense play out. Honestly, it's pathetic. We've let political agendas infect every corner of entertainment, stripping away the fun and forcing everyone to pick a side. Rogan nails it. The more corporations lean into this, the more ridiculous it all gets. At some point, people will push back, and it's about time. Let us enjoy life without being force-fed a moral lecture at every turn.